Again, does anybody need a copy of the handbook for the old one?
The old one, yes.
The old?
Yes. And I'm willing to share.
Maybe, and. Because it deals with structures, residential.
Oh, yeah.
lots.
Yeah.
Plus, we need to talk about the procedure, so we need. She was suggesting a workshop.
Add it to my collection.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Can we do one on the 4th?
Number 4. Just for that. Yeah. Let's talk about that. It's the time frame for me.
On the 4th?
Yeah, it's just, you're right, it's just getting here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of Highland Park. I'd like to call to order the Highland Park in-person and virtual workshop meeting scheduled for today, November 20th at 6 p.m. We have one item to be discussed today. That is the City of Highland Park's new employee handbook. We have Attorney John Clark with us tonight to answer questions and to talk about the document. Hold on one second, I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Ashafi,
Here.
Councilwoman Martin, Councilwoman Manica,
Here.
Council Pro Tem Robinson,
Here.
Council President Thomas.
Thank you. Sorry about that, John. Long day.
All good. So good evening, members of council. In case I forget, hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving. We have before you the proposed employee handbook that is intended to supersede the 2004 employee manual. Good evening, how are you? Any copies of it?
Please let the record show that Ms. Martin showed up 5 minutes after. She's present.
So I think as we discussed at the last workshop, and I know there were some questions about why we didn't redline the original, and the issue is that the changes were significant. As you can imagine, a almost 20-year-old document. A lot's changed in the law. Technology, social media. I'm sorry?
Copy for the clerk's office.
Sure. Thank you. As I was saying, technology, social media, things such as breastfeeding, that's a new phenomenon under the Family Medical Leave Act. The Family Medical Leave Act itself has been modified, significantly. Things like marijuana, use of marijuana, which is now a legal substance. You still can't show up to work under the influence, but doesn't necessarily mean you can't have it in your system. So significant changes. The document makes very clear that this is not intended to supersede, override, modify any collective bargaining agreement. So to the extent that there's any conflicts between a CBA and the handbook, the CBA would control, which is the way it should be. A lot of these items are negotiation items or could be drug testing, things like that. So this is a format and form that I've used for other communities. I think it's important that we have an updated handbook for our employees to provide guidance. And in the event that there are issues, it's important that we be able to go back to a document that indicates that these are the rules and that they should be abided by. So I'm here to answer any questions, comments, concerns. I can have a seat and come back up if you want to take it further. No, it's not, no problem. I mean, I think we're scheduled for the whole hour, so I can, yes, ma'am.
What was our
She's trying to be
major,
recognized.
was there
She was trying to be recognized.
Yes, Ms. Manica, please.
just, what was any of the major things besides, I know we mentioned at the very beginning, technology is different than before. So you don't have to elaborate on them, but what were some of the major things in here or areas that you made some changes or corrections?
Yeah, so IT, social media didn't exist really in 04.
Right.
It didn't exist. The harassment, discrimination, it now includes more of the protected categories, which weren't recognized back in 2004. As I talked about the drug inclusion, typically it was alcohol. Now it's for other drugs that are prohibited if they can influence somebody's ability to do their job. Again, you didn't have that interplay of legalized marijuana back in 04. So it's something that it addresses that. Family and Medical Leave Act has been modified. That includes a requirement to permit mothers who are breastfeeding an opportunity for a location to breastfeed, privacy, things of that nature. So those things that had been included in handbooks that, again, you didn't have any of that, back in 04 or not even 4 or 5 years ago. So, and the handbook is a living document. Obviously, if laws change, things change. Then I'll come back before you at some point and have modifications. Those will be redlined because hopefully this will be the new starting document as opposed to going back to 04. I typically don't update unless it's something significant. There's a complete rewrite of the anti-discrimination laws, or marijuana suddenly now is illegal, or it's federalized at the state level, it's legalized. I typically don't come back for nickel and dime changes. I mean, you're all busy, a lot of things going on. If there's a massing of multiple modifications, I would come back at some point if we needed to have council consider those and hopefully vote to approve those changes. The employees are required to sign off on these. There's a signature form that they sign that goes in their personnel file. There's contemplation of me doing a handbook training for staff to go through that new handbook and talk about things. And if people have questions, kind of like we're doing tonight, that we can answer questions. I think that's what Mayor McDonald would like to do, but we don't want to do that until we have a document that you all have signed off on.
John, I have a question for you. So this came to us from the EFM, right? This came from Emergency Finance?
The original one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would need to, basically, the first step would probably be to rescind this document.
Yeah, I have that in the resolution.
Yeah, so-
To rescind the 04 and then adopt the new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional questions?
Yes.
So, when you mentioned about breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So is that something that we're gonna have to come back to later? When I say come back to, I mean, just find out if our facilities have a space for them to do that, or if they just allow us to go off.
Yeah, quite frankly, I'm not sure the mechanics of that. That's an excellent question. I mean, we have to have an area to do that. So where the administration is going to make that determination, I guess we'll have to figure that out. We haven't had that conversation, but that's a good question. And again, this isn't intended to modify benefits. It doesn't impact retirees. You know, this is the here and now. These are your standard, basically the standard laws and things that we need to incorporate to make sure we're covered. So,
Yes,
Question.
yes.
Permission to be heard.
Yes, please go right ahead.
So,
I see your hand up there.
Mr. Clark, can you explain how, if the handbook is adopted, or when it's adopted, if not tonight or the next meeting, how will be communicated to the city employees? How is that gonna take place?
yeah, great. Yeah, so it would first be distributed through Human Resources, would distribute a hard copy to every employee, give them an opportunity to review it, and then they would fill out the acknowledgement form that they received a copy, and then the acknowledgement form would go in their personnel files. And the reason that is important is if there is a violation of policy down the road, at least from a labor perspective, the first thing an arbitrator wants to know is, were there work rules in place? Were they provided to the employees? Did the employees acknowledge receipt? Did they have a chance to ask questions about them? Things like that. So that's an important document to establish that we do have rules. The employees did get a copy of the rules. They had a chance to ask questions about them. And so any violations would stem from that establishment. You have to establish that first. And as I said, Attorney Burton, I would recommend even a training session, if not with all staff, at a minimum with department heads and manager level at a minimum, so that they're aware of it. And if they receive questions from staff, that they either know how to respond to it or at least know where to direct that employee to get the answers they need.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Sharp, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so I received a lot of phone calls. Got a lot of concerned residents about this handbook. And one of the things that they're concerned about is the pension part. So in the old handbook on page 27, 9.05, it says for regular full-time employees, the city offers a 401 defined contribution plan. The city will contribute 5.35% of regular wages for each employee. The city will match on a 50% basis employee contributions up to 3.5% of pay. But in the new one here, on page 14, under 5.01, it says employee benefits not provided by contract are subject to modifications at the sole discretion and authority of the city and may be modified at the city's discretion. I got a problem with that.
So that's a fair question. I don't believe the city still utilizes the 04 for the benefit. Well, first of all, the benefits in the union contracts control. So whatever those union contracts are, that's what is provided to our union staff.
Okay,
Okay.
because,
And that would not, anybody who's retired with a pension.
right, okay.
This has no impact whatsoever.
Okay, because there are employees or ex-employees that have called me and they have told me that at the time when the emergency manager came and pretty much gutted the city, the first one, they didn't take the buyouts for their pension. They decided to wait.
Okay.
And they've been waiting exactly about 20 years. And now that the pension is fully funded,
Right.
money is owed to them individuals. I want to
Right.
make sure that the people who have their pensions coming get that money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and sir, if you read the language, it says for regular full-time employees, well, that was employees as of 2004.
Mhm.
We're in 2023. So anybody who retired or who left and they had a vested pension, then the pension is constitutionally protected
Okay,
by the Michigan Constitution.
okay. So
So-
there'll be no waiver or loss of the people that have been sitting around waiting for the last 20 years to get their money. They'll be able to get that money.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. If they have a vested pension benefit, and this is a defined contribution, so this is like a 401k where you put in money, the city matches. It's versus a defined benefit, where a defined benefit is you get X amount of dollars every year for the rest of your life. This is a defined contribution, which means once you separate from employment, whatever's in there is yours. You take that with you. The city doesn't continue to make contributions to a 401a or defined contribution after you leave. Yeah, once you separate, whatever, if it's $50 in there or 50,000 in there, that money is yours. And you can use it, whatever, as long as it's vested, then you use it as you see fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Additional questions?
Who sits on the city's labor council?
Madam Pro Tem?
Yes,
Where's that referenced?
in the actual resolution. It said whereas the city labor council has prepared. and
Yeah, that's me, Labor Council.
Just you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Shafi?
Has, on page 19.
Of the new one, sir, or the old
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Okay.
Of the new one, 7.06. I'm looking at weapons. Is this new or is this a revised version? I didn't see it in here. I probably skipped it under the old one, but I didn't see that in here.
Yeah, I'd have to do a quick comparison.
Okay. Yeah, because this is a real issue actually as well too. I've heard statements from city employees about this particular one here.
Yeah, I don't see it in a quick review, sir. I don't see it in the old. Could be in here, but I don't know.
Okay, so under the new one, it says the city of Highland Park prohibits employees from possessing or carrying weapons, concealed or otherwise, of any kind on city property, in city vehicles, or while on city time. This includes any explosives, any weapons, any, all firearms, and all non-folding knives with blades that are more than 4 inches in length. Yeah, you know, I didn't see that in the old one, so that must be something new added.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is new.
Okay. Or maybe I skipped it, you know, I'm getting
Yeah.
old.
Also, if I just turn your attention to page 1, because, you know, I get
The
the
new one?
question, the new one, yes, sir. Yeah, I get the question, well, how about police officers? And so what I include in these handbooks, if you go under section 1, the welcome and purpose of a handbook, do you see that, sir? The number 1, if you go down you go down to the 4th paragraph.
Okay,
Additionally, some city departments and divisions of local government have established department policies and procedures to the extent they exist, which address some functions of that work unit. Those department policies remain in effect. So to the extent that the fire department, police department,
Oh, yeah,
DPW.
yeah. I didn't think for a second that applied
Okay,
to
okay,
the police.
okay. The people have said, well,
Yeah,
wait a
yeah,
minute,
Yeah.
that's
No,
my
no,
job. We got to carry a gun.
No.
Okay.
I,
So, but I included that section, that part of section 1, that way then, you know,
That
I'm
I
not getting
need to
calls
know.
from your DPW guy, your fire chief saying, well, wait a minute, Clark, you know, this is in conflict. You know,
Yeah.
This is not intended
Yeah.
to override or
Oh,
supersede
yeah.
department rules.
exactly.
Which
Yeah,
each
that doesn't
department has
apply to the police. I knew that off the
Okay,
rip.
okay,
Yeah, so
good,
you have a
okay.
problem there.
Okay. And I think it is on the agenda tonight. I think Clerk Green made me an accommodation by including it. I know typically workshop items are not voted on.
Yeah,
But
that is usually the rule. I kind of have an issue with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
because normally when we have something on the workshop,
sure.
we discuss it and then it's placed onto the agenda at the next meeting,
Okay,
not the same
I
meeting.
understand.
Yeah.
Understood. However the council wants to proceed, I'm obviously fine with.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Manica,
So is there anything else that major they got?
Mr. Ashafi,
Oh,
you
okay,
stop
I
talking, I
apologize, Council
recognize Ms.
President.
Manica.
Sorry about that, Council President. I apologize.
Thank you.
Ms. Manica,
So
if you would.
if I remember correctly, on another agenda, we did have the employee handbook. Was it on another agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm asking, because that may be, Mr. Ashafi, why it's allowed to be on this agenda as well.
It's been discussed at least twice in this chamber. It's been presented to us 3 times in the past 60 days.
Okay, thank you.
And the very last sheet, just to point out on the new one, that this is the acknowledgement form. This document, this lays out, this is what the employee would review and sign, and that this is what would go in their personnel files.
Mr. Ashafi?
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
I thought the state did away with the nepotism law. I'm seeing it here, 2.06 in the new handbook, page 2. Yeah, well, no, it's not page 2. No, that's page 4. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's page 4. Yeah. So I thought the state did away with the nepotism law.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So what does that comprise then?
So what it is that we don't prohibit people who are related either by marriage or blood to work for the city. What we can't have, and to me, it's commonsensical, you can't have it in a supervisory subordinate relationship, right?
Okay.
I couldn't work for the city and then I direct my son or my wife to, for the day-to-day operations. So, that's what basically the rule is. It's like, hey, if there's 10 people in the family, they all want to work for the city, fine. You just can't have dad supervising son or mom supervising niece. Just because it just sets up a bad situation. People can say you're expressing favoritism, so-and-so, got a promotion because, mom made the decision. So we just don't want to put our employees in that circumstance,
Okay.
either the that are related or have to work in that same department.
Okay. So does that, I know that the law enforcement has a different standard. So does that rule apply as well for law enforcement here in the city?
I'm not familiar with if the police department has a different rule or not.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
And again, if it does have a separate policy, the handbook isn't intended to change those policies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So John, I have a question for you. So what if, Ms. Manica, I'm gonna pickle you. What if one of her fantastic nephews wanted to be a firefighter or a police officer here and she's on city council? Is that something that's prohibited?
No, because she as one vote, doesn't have the authority to direct anything herself. It would have to be through resolution of council, which would be 3.
Okay.
And there's
And
not a
she's not
direct,
supervising it.
Excuse me.
correct. And exactly,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Additional questions?
So
Please, Ms. Manica, which would?
So I'm gonna go back to that we were just discussing. So what if it already exists?
Yeah.
And then where do we go from here? Is that gonna stay in place or will they have to get a different supervisor? Or if the hiring process was more than one person hiring?
Right.
And or they both were, I know I'm giving a lot of questions here, but they both were employed. And then recently somebody received a promotion. Is that going to affect that scenario? Because it wasn't like,
It's in the old one.
okay,
3.08, it has a nepotism section in there.
yeah, I know it has in there. I was
Yeah.
just thinking,
So it's already in place. In fact, the old one is a lot more detailed than the one that I put in.
okay,
Yeah, it's a lot more specific, so.
John, a question for you is, so again, with social media, what are the limits that we have for individuals that are employed by the city? To what degree can they be censured via their social media?
Typically, the rule of thumb is that an individual has full rights of expression and First Amendment rights.
Mhm.
However, an employee cannot hold themselves out as a representative or employee of the city of Highland Park through social media. I'll give you an example. I had a circumstance where an employee was in uniform, police department uniform on social media, doing and saying things that were very inappropriate. That's not permitted. So you're free to, on your own time, you can do what you want, obviously within, nothing's forever, nothing is exempt. Obviously, we want everyone to work with respect and dignity towards themselves and others. But the rule of thumb is that you are not permitted to hold yourself out as an employee unless you're authorized to do so by your boss or by the mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Additional, Mr. Shafi.
So, to double back, where Ms. Manica was, back to the nepotism, just a little bit here. So Ms. Manica made the statement that what if it already exists? And without calling out anybody or any names, I know at least 3 places where it does exist currently here in the city.
Okay.
How could that possibly be remedied without them having a problem?
I guess I'd have to know more about each circumstance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's people who are related, which is common.
It is common.
Yeah, the issue is the direct supervisory subordinate role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 3 that I'm thinking of are direct supervisory roles.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be something to look into.
Yeah,
To
because
see what kind of remedy could be made for
Yeah.
that.
because technically under even the old handbook, that could be an issue. So, yeah, it's something that if it exists, should be reviewed and analyzed and come up with a solution that works.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to cause anybody any problems, but yeah,
Understood.
okay.
Ms. Manica?
so I know we are to approve this, well, who actually I guess enforces it or?
The administration.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No questions here? Any further-
So,
Go ahead, Mr. Shafi.
are we up to spec shit on our disability accommodations?
As far as I know,
Okay, we're up to code with everything?
I can't speak for the building or each building, but I'm not aware of any alleged or purported accommodation issue that the city is currently facing.
Okay. Can you give me a quick breakdown of workers' comp? I'm looking at it in here. If you can,
What page, sir?
page 15, 6.01.
So this is just the distribution of a workers' compensation check. So the city has a workers' compensation carrier that handles the claims.
No, I'm sorry.
And I believe that the city supplements, because workers' comp is sometimes, I don't know, 65, 70% of, you don't get your full paycheck. And so I believe the city, either through one or all of its contracts, does supplement workers' comp. So the employee doesn't lose money. This is the process where the employee would be paid their supplemental pay while they're off on workers' comp. So it deals with payroll deductions and things. It's not, any workers' comp claim that comes in is turned over to our carrier. They do an excellent job of investigating it. And they make the call as to whether the injury was work-related or not. And if it is work-related, then we honor that and we compensate the employee and get them the help. If it's not, then we contest it. But I'm not aware, who does the workers' comp for the city? You know, Delphia?
In the state?
No, in the city, who
Oh.
does the workers' comp for the city? I've never dealt with it.
Okay.
Our human,
HR, okay.
yeah, since human resources does all
Okay.
that.
Okay, okay, so I know this handbook, it covers employees. Is there a standard in here for those elected officials? Does this cover us as well? Or what's the case for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I don't know if it explicitly references elected officials. Certainly, much of this would not be applicable to elected officials. I think really probably the main ones would be the IT, if you're using city, if you're provided with the cell phone, or if you're using city computers and things. Certainly a workplace harassment, discrimination, you know, couldn't tolerate that happening from an elected official. I'd have to go through it, but most of this would not be applicable to elected officials. Especially in this form of government you have, where no individual city council member has the authority to really do anything outside of the council setup and through a vote of a resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now that could, the council can delegate authority to individuals, but that's not the usual process.
Okay, so for the most part, I'll tell you, this would exclude the five of us, the clerk, the treasurer, and the judge, correct?
Well, the clerk and treasurer they're different. I think they're considered, even though they're elected, I think they're considered employees.
No, they're not employees, they're elected officials.
No, I understand that, but I think they're treated as, because they're full-time, they directly supervise staff. They work out of City Hall. So I think the law would look at them a little differently than a member of council, because they do have independent authority and autonomy to make decisions based on either the charter, council resolution, ordinance, or state law.
So is that in here for the clerk and the treasurer?
I don't think I spelled out each of those positions separately.
Yeah, because I'm definitely not seeing it. Ethics and conflict of interest. 9.09, page 31. Okay, hold on a second.
Wait a
That's not
minute.
correct.
What's the section, sir? If you just tell me the section, I can find it.
Okay, so it's 9.9.
9.9, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
What page do you have?
page 48, sir.
Page 48, okay. It's a little bit back there, huh? I understand that we're supposed to have an ethics board in place. Has that been settled, or is that still in limbo?
I'm not sure.
Permission to be heard.
Ms. Burton would like to be heard. Ms. Burton, would you please?
So we have an ethics board, however, they are not meeting. You were a member of that.
I was never
Would you-
approved by council. Yeah, Rodney and then they never approved me. Yeah, the mayor picked me, but I was never approved by council, so.
So council
Yeah.
needs to select new members.
Absolutely.
Council needs to select one, I believe, and the mayor needs to select one in order to comprise that board.
Is it just two members on that board, Ms. Delphine?
No, there are other members on the board
Okay.
that were selected and approved.
Okay, can we get a list of those members?
Yes,
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Okay. So ethics and conflict of interest, page 9.9. Employees are expected to adhere to the highest standards of personal and professional and business ethics. And to always use common sense. That's not always the case. Judgment and good conduct when on duty or representing the city. Honestly, respect and care in dealing with others on the job, in performing your duties, and in dealing with the public, vendors, visitors, should be standard benchmarks of your behavior. Let's see here. Okay, so I see, hold up a second, I'm sorry. Is there like a list of do's and don'ts for this?
Yeah, if you go to page 50.
Page 50. Okay. Engaging in business conduct which is damaging to our reputation, disclosing or misusing confidential information belonging to the city or any receipt of city services, promising or giving something of value to someone during or seeking to do business with us in order to influence them in matters relating to us, accepting gifts, entertainment services, influence our business decisions for more than one day, may be accepted. Hold
Which
on a
one?
second. Let me read that in full. Accepting gifts, entertainment services, or other benefits where the purpose is to unduly influence our business decisions, gifts or benefits valued at over $50 or $25 lasting for more than one day may not be accepted. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm getting old glasses.
It's all right.
Yeah,
It's a lot of words here.
yeah, I was about to say maybe accepted.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a no. Okay, all right. Let's see here. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, it's pretty basic stuff. I mean,
May such a person. Okay.
we want people to act honestly and ethically and in the best interest of the city.
Discussing city affairs with the media will, without proper authorization, undermining business decisions, engaging in any illegal activities on city property or on behalf of the city, and using confidential city information, facilities, supplies, and or merchandise for personal gain. Okay. Personal phones, recognize that periodically personal calls must be made. Be received during business hours. Such calls should be held at a minimum so that they do not interfere with the work.
Oh my God, if you don't sit there and read.
Excuse me.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Give me a quick explanation of 9.12.
Okay, sir.
On page 51, I'm sorry.
Political campaign activities. So we don't want people campaigning while people are at work.
Mhm.
And we don't want people wearing political stuff at work. You know, it's just, basically, like, just like the social media, if you can do that on your own time, on your own dime, but you shouldn't be, we shouldn't have police officers out knocking on doors in uniform, supporting this or supporting that. That's just not, that's not what we can allow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely something that happened in the last election. We ran up on a couple of officers that were handing out flyers.
Not for me.
It wasn't from you, Madam Mayor. You wasn't mayor at the time.
Not for me.
I tell you, clearly not talking about you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Peers and- Mr. Clark, on 52, section C might be a little bit of a problem. I do believe that people are entitled to express themselves. It might be considered an act of discrimination if they got too many piercings or too many tattoos and things of that nature, just trying to avoid what may be a potential problem for the city. I mean, they do have the right to
Well, I mean,
express
we're not,
themselves.
again, this is extremely common. I mean, again, we're not saying you can't have them. We just don't, maybe just cover them up.
Okay,
I mean, we're not saying you gotta have your tattoos removed. And it's only those that are offensive, something that would be either a profanity or a pornographic or something. I mean, just on top of my head.
or swastika or something like that.
Yeah, those are things that, again, if you have them, just ask that you cover them up.
Okay.
Again, just while you're at work. I don't, that has not been a problem in my career with that. And tattoos are becoming a lot more prevalent than they used to be. I know that much.
Yes, they are.
Especially with the young people that pretty much, it seems like they all have them. I was always too afraid.
Any additional questions from members?
I think I'm pretty much done, Council President. You may proceed.
Any additional questions from other members?
None of this, no.
I can,
Ms.
So it's
Burton,
on the, I'm sorry, sir.
you got something you wanted to add?
yes. Jack, can you explain how not having a handbook impacts our yearly audit?
Yeah, I know that there have been, I know Ms. Square and I had talked about this, that the auditors, I don't know if it's a finding in the audit. It's that the city doesn't have updated policies to provide governance for its employees, to make sure that, being ethical, being honest, doing the right thing. I mean, we have people that deal with money, people that have a lot of, visit homes, they have a lot of interaction with the general public. And so, there have been audit findings because the old handbook is so woefully, at the time, it was fine. 20 years is a long time. And so, I believe there have been findings. And so that's another good reason for the council to act on this. Again, it's on the agenda. I would appreciate if council could at least consider it this evening, and that way then we can move forward.
Isn't the old handbook in play right now?
Yes.
Right, so we're just voting on the new,
Yeah, we are voting to repeal the old and approve the new.
and we usually don't vote, whatever's on the workshop, usually not voting.
No, I understand that. I understand.
This item has come up before city council. This is the third time. This is the third time this item has come up before city council.
Why did it take 3 times for handbook to come before?
I can go back and look at the minutes and I could see what action was taken by members of council. That would be the best way to explain it. Because it came to council, we were provided this document nearly 50 days ago.
September.
Yeah, I'm looking at the, when do we have a meeting? It was September 18th?
Yeah.
Prior to that.
So I believe that I came to a meeting, it was referred to a workshop. I came in October. Remember, we had 3 items up, so we were kind of hurried at the end. And the council decided that they wanted some additional time to review it. And so they set today for the date. So this is my 3rd time down here on this.
Okay.
And that's fine. I don't have a problem. This is an important document and there's a lot here. And it's basically brand new. So completely understand. Council wants to make sure they understand it. And I thought tonight was a good exercise to review this and answer any questions.
Sure, Mr. Shafi.
Okay, so, we did have it, one time it got removed and then it got set aside for a workshop. We appreciate the workshop. It gives us an opportunity to work out a few of the bugs. Directive 91. So it's an EM directive. Does it require us to have a supermajority vote to overturn it, or does it need a standard vote of
Just a
three?
standard vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, one question.
Madam Pro Tem?
Only because of what Attorney Burton said, as far as the handbook affecting an audit. So by us just now approving and updating this handbook, has it affected previous audits?
Yeah, it's a finding every year. Auditors come in and look at everything. They look at your policies, your procedures, and they come in every year and say, this is 20 years old. And so it's just, it's a policy or procedure that is outdated, and, it's pretty standard in every city. Some cities have more handbooks than one, because it's various, like the city of Detroit, for example, they have so many unions that they have different, like DDOT has its own set of rules, and the water department has another set. But it's a pretty standard HR tool. Folks come in, they like to know when the holidays are, the do's and don'ts of the organization. Really hasn't, it's affected us, but we're such a small organization that with mostly appointed staff changes with every election. And so we've had many lawsuits, but the lawsuits have not necessarily been about the handbook. But certainly a handbook is a general practice. Somebody's working here, they like to know when the holidays are. That's the first. We always want to know when we're gonna be off. So it's not a bad. And honestly, this handbook was a EM directive, because when you have an EM, everything they do is a directive. So everything they do, if you look back to the EM book that you have EM orders that started with the first EM, Ramona Pearson, and then you have Art Blackwell's EM orders, period of time that he was here. And then you have the final EM orders for Robert Mason. So every official action that they took was an EM order. This doesn't really necessarily need to be adopted by council. We're just here tonight because it was an EM order and you need to rescind that order.
Okay.
So it's general routine practices. It's really good for the city when an employee sues the city. They sue and say, well, I didn't know. And you say, well, it's right here in the employee hands. So it really is a liability issue, which is why the auditors bring it up as findings.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Good and welfare. This is over at 5 minutes to 7, so we have that long for that. Mr. Ashaki, you have anything under good and welfare?
I have no comments.
Ms. Martin under good and welfare?
No,
Thank you very much. Ms. Manick under good and welfare?
no, all right.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem under good and welfare. Thank you very much. Having handled all business or addressed all business in the workshop for today, the chair will declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.